Okay, so this is a lesson on using linear models. So essentially what we're doing here is we're going to be reading word problems and we're going to be writing algebraic equations that match that word problem and then doing some solving with that equation. So we're going to start off with this example. A candle is 6 inches tall after burning for 1 hour. After 3 hours, it is 5.5 inches tall. Write a linear equation to model the height y of the candle after burning x hours. So they've given us x, y, x being the hours that it's burning, and y is the height of the candle. So notice the first thing I did when I read the problem is I took a second to figure out what my two variables were. That's always really important. So step one, identify your data points. So my data points, remember it says two points of data. So I have an xy here, 2 inches tall after burning for 1 hour. Burning is the x, 6 inches tall, the height of the candle, 6 inches is the y. And then here I have my second data point. So 3 hours is my x, the hours burned is my x, and 5.5 inches tall is my y. So they've just given me two sets of data here. So xy, first point is going to be 1 and 6, and my second xy is going to be 3 and 5.5. And the other thing I want to check is to make sure they're in the same unit of measure. So 6 inches and 5.5 inches, so those are both in inches, and then the x's are both in hours, so we're good there. If they were in different units of measure, you would have to somehow convert them both so they would have the same unit of measure, okay? So that's the first thing we do. So remember, we're writing a linear model, so essentially that means we're going to be writing some sort of an equation. And in the last lesson, we learned about writing equations of lines, and in this case, we are in the situation where we are given 2 points. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to find the slope given those 2 points. Remember our formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have 5.5 minus 6 over 3 minus 1. So 5.5 minus 6 is a half, negative half, sorry. So negative 0.5 over 3 minus 1 is 2. So this is a little bit of an issue because we have essentially negative 1/2 over 2. So we have a fraction within a fraction. So we're going to somehow have to figure that out. So remember that dividing by 2 is the same thing as flipping and multiplying. So I could say negative 1/2 times 1/2, right? Because we have to flip it and multiply. This cancels, and then I'm left with this. When you simplify, that is how you simplify a compound fraction. So negative times a positive is a negative, and 2 times 2 is 4. So there's my slope, negative 1/4. Then step 3 says use one of the points. So again, I could use 1 and 6, or I could use 3 and 5.5. I'm going to use 1 and 6 because I like those whole numbers, okay? And the slope, so I just found my slope as 1/4. And write the point slope form of the line. So this is our linear model, right? So point slope form looks like that. So y minus the y coordinate, which is 6, and m, negative 1/4, times x minus my x coordinate. And then remember that when you do this, you then need to simplify it. So we're going to have to distribute negative 1/4 times x is negative 1/4 x. Negative 1/4 times negative 1, negative times negative is a positive. 1/4 times 1 is 1/4. And then I'm going to add 6. So here I need to change this to fourths so that I can combine them. So 1 goes into 4 4 times, so I multiplied by 4. which means I need to multiply this by 4, and 6 times 4 is 24. So 24/4 is the same thing as 6 over 1. So now I can combine those two to get y equals negative 1/4 x plus 25 over 4. So this is my linear model. Okay, so linear model. Now that we have our linear model, what we're going to do is we're going to use it to solve some problems. So I'm just going to clear this page and scroll up, and then we're going to continue on with actually solving some questions now that we have our equation. So I'm just going to really quickly write down our equation here. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 25 over 4. And we're going to use that each time to solve the problem. So I'm just going to rewrite it both times. Okay. So question number 4. How tall will the candle be after burning 11 hours? Remember that the hours is our x. So what we're going to do is we're going to be plugging 11 in for x. Okay. So, and then we're going to calculate it. This is a plug and chug, right? When x is 11, how much is y? That's essentially what it's saying to you. So we're going to go ahead and do some math here. Negative 1 times 11 is negative 11 over 4, because remember this is over 1, multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, plus 25 over 4. So essentially I have 25 minus 11, y equals 14 over 4, which is approximately 3 2/4, which is approximately 3 1/2. So how tall will the candle be after burning 11 hours? It will be 3 1/2 inches tall. After 11 hours. Okay. Question number 5, when will the candle burn out? And so when will the candle burn out? So after how many hours will the candle burn out, right? So x is hours, and we want to know how many hours until the candle burns out. Y is the height of the candle. Well, if the candle's burnt out, its height, I would hope, is going to be 0 inches. That's the assumption we would make. Now I know candles don't always burn right out to the last possible drip of wax, but we're going to pretend that that's the case and that the height is 0. So when the candle's totally burnt out, we're going to solve for how many hours that is going to be. So this time we're going to try to get x by itself. So this is the term that has the x in it. So I have to detach everything first. So I'm going to minus 25 over 4 from both sides. So I have a negative 25 over 4 equals negative 1/4 x. This is canceled out. Okay. And then to get rid of my fraction, you multiply by what's in the denominator. If you do that to one side of the equation, you got to do it to the other. And what ends up happening is the 4's cancel. So you get negative 1x, 4's cancel, equals negative 25. And then, of course, you can't have a negative x, so you multiply everything by negative 1, and all that does is change the signs. So 25 equals x, and 25, remember, is hours. It's going to take 25 hours before the candle is completely burned out. So you're going to be given some situations like this where you're going to have to write the equation, and then you're going to have to answer some questions based on the equation that you've written.